Kansas City Chiefs, Jacksonville Jaguars, Monday Night Football. Everything you need to know for your fantasy teams and player picks in 15 minutes. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these for every primetime game as well as every game on Sunday to give you a unique edge, looking at coverage data, run scheme metrics, and overall statistical trends that not a lot of people talk about because it relates to the scheme behind the game of football instead of just the numbers you see on the screen. Without further ado, let's get into it. As always, in the description is a link to all of my socials. That is where all of my picks will be: Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you're not following on there, make sure you do, and make sure you subscribe on here. Kansas City, 3.5-point favorites versus Jacksonville. Guys, we got a fun one here. I don't think you're going to like what I'm going to pick in this game. Now, the total sit at 44.5. As always, none of this is professional, financial, or gambling advice. These are information pieces that you can use for your own, if you'd like, at your own risk, picks. Looking at the data outliers for the Kansas City Chiefs, they are giving up the 5th most quarterback rush yards in the entire NFL. And I would love to lean into that, but then I looked at Trevor Lawrence's game log, guys. My bad. This is there you go. 4 rushes, 12 yards. 2 rushes, 4 yards. 2 rushes, 9 yards. 7. Look at this. 7 rushes. 7 rushes. 7 yards. Obviously, Neal's count as rushes, but nothing is going to come for Trevor Lawrence, I don't think, on the ground. At least I'm not confident enough to lean into it. And most importantly, they're giving up the 5th most yards per carry. We'll talk run scheme metrics here in a second. That is the big lean for the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game. I think they can and honestly will have a ton of success on the ground in this game, guys. Looking at the coverage data for the Kansas City Chiefs, they run the 11th most man-to-man, but the 2nd most middle field open. It's a unique combo, and the reality is the Jacksonville Jaguars have not played a defense like that before. They haven't even played a defense that has done either of these two things. Played 50% of their snaps in middle field open. Like every team they've played so far has played less than 50% of their snaps in middle field open, at least holistically throughout the year. And none of the teams they've played are top 10 in man-to-man or even playing 30% of their snaps in man-to-man. What does that mean? There is no good data for us to really confidently lean into a wide receiver. The target rates make me wonder a little bit, and we have some Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter stuff here in a second, because Trevor Lawrence is still throwing the ball out wide at the 3rd highest rate. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. obviously haven't produced how we think they're going to, but I can almost promise you this week above all weeks, because again, they have not played a top 10 man team yet. A lot of times when you play those man teams, you have more one-on-one opportunities on the outside. This is going to be the best chance that these guys have at a big game, or really what I'll talk about here, a big catch. That's what I'm really looking at, because I don't know how much the volume is going to be there. You look at the total for this game. I almost wanted to go under, but then I looked and the total is already low enough. I'm not even touching that. There's going to be only so many opportunities for each side of the ball, not just for the Jacksonville Jaguars, for each side of the ball to get chunk plays, to throw the ball down the field, and you have to make the most of them. There's going to be a lot of groundwork on both sides in this game, guys. That's the reality of it. And on the Jaguars end, look, I'll talk about my pick for the game at the end. I think there's a real shot here. I think there's a real shot. They have big plays on the ground. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They're giving up the 5th most yards per carry. On the other side of the ball, this is what shocked me. I knew Jacksonville was running the ball a bunch. They're running the ball physically a lot of times. 6th best on the ground, guys. 6th best on the ground. That's crazy to me. And it's not like they're playing slouches of run defenses. I think we talked about the 49ers last week. Defense a little worse without Nick Bosa. But you look, you got Cincinnati, who really is not that bad on the ground. Holistically, defense is not great. They're really not that bad on the ground. Obviously, he took advantage of a bad matchup last week, or week 1 in Carolina, and last week against San Francisco. Then Houston, they're still having a lot of success on the ground, and it's because they're distributing the football across him, across Tootin, and obviously in week 1, Tank Bigsby. But they are very, very clearly committed to running the ball, and it's working. That's the bottom line. It's working. In terms of scheme, Kansas City is bottom 10 in both zone and man gap scheme runs in yards per carry. Now, Jacksonville Jaguars are extremely balanced in what they do, but it goes to show that they are incredibly successful in zone, and they've leaned into that against the teams they've played. I went back and watched that 49ers film. Travis Etienne, enormous touchdown run, right? You go back to week 1, the 70 or 80-yard run he had that was not a touchdown, but you go look at that long run, the explosives are there. Not frequently, and for the Kansas City Chiefs, it's a defense that kind of just goes death by 1,000 cuts. They're not going to let you get a ton of explosive runs, but the reality here is Travis Etienne said at 61.5, the only reason you should be scared of this number is because Jacksonville is a underdog, a dog here. I don't think they should be. That's the reality of it. We'll talk about the pick at the end here, but I like Travis Etienne on the ground. I like Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. Longest reception, like I just talked about earlier. It's a ball control game. The Jaguars are going to do everything they can to keep Mahomes off the field, and probably vice versa. The Chiefs are time of possession kings. We all know this. The reality is there's only going to be so many opportunities where, Travis Hunter's receiving yards line is set at 25. Like, that's pretty low, but the reality is he may not catch more than 2 balls. Like, you go look at Travis Hunter's game logs as well, and it's important to understand that there have been weeks like you got 3 for 22. You got 1 for 21. There's that longest catch right there. You got 3 for 42. Like, the volume already in more balanced settings isn't really there for a guy like Travis Hunter. Now in a game where, I think at halftime, each team could have 3 possessions. Like, the volume's not going to be there. The explosiveness, I think, will be because, again, this is the first time they've played a top 10 man-to-man team. This is the first time they've really played a team that's going to line up and say, hey, we think our DBs are better than your receivers, at least try to. And I think Jacksonville takes advantage of that, or at least tries to take advantage of it. So one successful long catch. I like Travis Hunter a little more than Brian Thomas Jr., but like one successful long catch, I feel more comfortable there. And again, I feel comfortable with Travis Etienne rushing yards because of the offensive line, because of the run game production, but more importantly, guys, because of this Jaguars defense. In terms of the outliers, giving up 5 running back receptions a game, that's fine. 9th most wide receiver receptions. We're going to talk about the Chiefs and what the return of Xavier Worthy means here in a second. But they have forced multiple interceptions in every game. They're playing good, stout defensive football. You go look at the run scheme metrics, which we'll come back down to in a second. 3.89 yard per carry allowed. That's top 10 defensively. No differences on either side of the scheme. They're good against both zone and man gap. 5th best versus explosive runs. This team is playing solid defensively. Now, what's really important to know is Trayvon Walker may not play. Obviously, injury news will always be pinned in the comments here. It's a very, very important part of this. It will make me more or less confident in a lot of the sides that I'm going to be, or the side that I'm going to be on here. But the Kansas City Chiefs don't run the ball well. That's the bottom of the line. We'll talk about how bad it is here in a second. So you got to lean into the pass game. Xavier Worthy played last week. Snap counts are extremely important. So this Chiefs team played a very similar defense in the Los Angeles Chargers week 1. They play extremely heavy amount of zone, but they're extremely balanced in terms of middle field open, middle field closed. The offensive personnel is different this time. Xavier Worthy played 3 snaps in that game against the Chargers. The reality is the offense is very different. In that game, Brown had 10 catches for 99 yards, obviously had the huge catch over the top, but a lot of receptions. Juju, 5 for 55, and Tyquan Thornton, 2 for 41. Where does Worthy fit in? Now, against zone last week, he had a pretty heavy uptick in target rate. So how often he was being targeted against zone compared to the other guys on his team. It's a week. It's 1 week. And last year, Xavier Worthy was the man guy. So I don't want to lean too much into that. But where the routes are happening, to me, is more important because you look down at the target rates, right? Jacksonville is being targeted on the outside at the 6th highest rate. It's a pretty important stat. And the Chiefs are throwing there at an above average rate. So when Xavier Worthy's back in the lineup, who is taking those out wide routes? Very important. The big change here came with Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton. Hollywood Brown is still the main out wide guy, but Xavier Worthy is the other guy on the outside. Xavier Worthy played a ton of his snaps, ran a ton of his routes from the outside last week. Juju had a 10% increase right here in slot routes with Xavier Worthy in the lineup. Tyquan Thornton, and again, this could be game flow. This could be just him playing a little more, Chiefs trying new things, had a 50% increase in slot routes with Worthy. That's crazy. That's crazy. What's interesting to note, though, is Hollywood Brown's snaps, like how often he was physically on the field, took the biggest hit. When you go look at snap counts, you'll see Hollywood Brown completely dominating this offense. 93, 75, 68. Going down a little bit. Worthy's back, boom, 38. And again, this could be because it was a blowout. You got guys like Nico Remilio and Jalen Royals playing more snaps than they ever have. Obviously, Jalen Royals was injured, but he was active for that game against the Giants the week prior. I'm not as worried for Hollywood Brown in terms of snaps, but it's absolutely worth noting. So scrolling back down here, I really like the outside guys. The data showed us last week that it's Worthy and Hollywood Brown. I don't know if I can confidently trust Juju. I don't know if I can confidently trust Tyquan Thornton in terms of volume, maybe a catch or two. But Scrolling back down, it's the outside target rates. That's what really sticks out to me. And obviously, the Chiefs like to throw to the inside. The Jaguars don't allow a ton of targets to the inside. So you got to look outside, and the numbers suggest worthy Hollywood Brown. Scrolling down to the run scheme metrics, it's pretty bad. I mean, the Jaguars' run defense is good. Chiefs only 4.29 yards per carry, slightly below average, and legitimately every run statistic that I look at. So I'm not leaning too much into that. No differences on each side, offensively, defensively, in terms of man gap. Kareem Hunt, 13 carries to Pacheco's 7 last week. Look, your guess is as good as mine as to who scores, who gets the goal line work, I don't know. If you confidently want to lean into a Chiefs running back, be my guest. I'm not doing it. I like Xavier Worthy receiving. What's really interesting, though, right now, I think this is going to move, is 3.5 rushing. Rushing. Yes, rushing. It's an end around. It's a big explosive play. And what's also really weird is when you go look at the Chiefs last week, the rushing production for this team. This goes to show you how poor they run the ball. Kareem Hunt, 13 for 35. Isaiah Pacheco, 7 for 34. Okay, scroll down. Xavier Worthy, 2 for 38. He was their leading rusher. So I do think it is worth, noting that Xavier Worthy was their leading rusher. And even in week 1, he had a carry at the beginning of the game. Like, that 3.5 number, I'll probably be on it. I truthfully, I probably will. Again, all that will be on my Twitter, so make sure you're following over there. And then Hollywood Brown, just because the production was there in a really similar matchup, I have to lean into it. 35.5 is a lot. I'm probably going to water it down and put it in entry, which again will also be on the socials. Jags, though, I'm on them. I think they can straight up win this game. I like them to keep it within a field goal because of how much they can run the ball, how well they can run the ball, and the time of possession battle here. I think the Chiefs took advantage of a banged up Baltimore defense last week at home. This is a different atmosphere, number one, but a different defense, a defense that's forcing a lot of turnovers. I don't confidently know if Jacksonville can win this game. I think they can keep it close, but to be honest with you, I'm sprinkling it. I appreciate you guys watching and listening. As always, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. We have another Thursday night football game, Giants-Eagles breakdown coming out for you on Wednesday. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.